invite you to press star 1 at this time with any questions. Next in queue is...
Couple of weeks of pitchers and catchers report. It's always a time of year when starting right around January 1st, it's the only question I hear is after hello is, when are you leaving? It's like the first robin of spring or something. Dan's leaving good. We know the baseball can't be far behind. But today we're just going to, we're obviously here to talk some baseball. I'll be talking to Dave about some of the things coming up, some of the things that have gone on during the winter, and then obviously you'll get a chance to ask some questions of Dave as well. It's my pleasure right now to bring on up and join in the conversation the President, CEO, and General Manager of the Detroit Tigers, Dave Dombrowski.
Testing, yeah.
All right. I guess, first of all, maybe we could just start with kind of, people I think have heard a lot talk about some of the things that have transpired in recent weeks, such as the Prince Fielder signing, but do you ever wake up in the morning and just kind of go, wow, when you think about Fielder and Cabrera, we really have these guys, 3-4 in the lineup.
Well, it's once in a while, I mean, because you hear so much about, can he play third base, can he do this, but you also kind of, I wake up more and think, wow, that's a nice potent middle of the lineup, that 3-4, and it doesn't, I'm not sure, I was just reading an article today, not from a local person, but it was a national saying, well, the Tigers, with Martinez and Cabrera, so much of their offense was slanted towards those two guys last year, and I guess it was to some extent. But when I look at our lineup, and when you start, I'll start at 2, with Bosch, Cabrera, Fielder, Young, Avila, Peralta, and I know Rayburn's in that lineup a lot of times. That's a very good offensive lineup that can swing the bat and is going to score some runs. But of course, it's led by that 3-4. And sometimes you forget because you start talking about it. And then today I read in the paper, it was a Milwaukee thing, well, how are they going to replace their 38 home runs and 120 RBIs? You forget, it's 120 RBIs, that's a lot of RBIs. And so, yeah, I'm quite excited about seeing them, and I can't wait till we get down there and see them start playing on a daily basis.
Can we talk a little bit about that balance of offense and defense? Because we have heard a lot of skepticism about Cabrera playing third. How do you judge? I mean, do you think there are good formulas out there, or do you have your own formula for the value of a good defensive player in terms of runs saved or runs allowed versus an offensive player maybe at that same position? Is it still a very tricky thing to do?
Well, I mean, this is what we do. I mean, we have our scouts that analyze the players, first of all. Secondly, Mike Smith, who's right over there, that many of you do not. Mike, why don't you stand up so they can all see our... Mike does statistical analysis for us, and he'll look at, there's probably 3 defensive rating systems that he puts more weight on some versus others. One thing about defensive value ranking systems, I think that's very important, is it's dependent upon who is inputting the information, because sometimes you have to remember, somebody's going back and watching these games, putting them into their systems, and if somebody is not analyzing the player's strengths and weaknesses quite as well as an average player versus, then it may not be quite as accurate. So we do analyze that. We look at the scouts report. Of course, then you balance the offense versus the defense. First of all, and I talk to Jim Leland all the time about this, and Jim is really good, very good manager, longtime baseball guy. The perfect player rarely exists. I mean, everybody keeps talking, oh, this guy doesn't swing the bat quite as well, this guy doesn't hit, this guy doesn't play defense quite as well. Well, there's very few guys that are gold glovers and are batting champions and all-stars from an offensive perspective. They're called Hall of Famers. And even some Hall of Famers have had some shortcomings in one area or the other. So what you do is put your club together that you feel gives you the best chance to win. Now, with our ball club, we have just the defensive part of our game when you analyze it, even coming into the wintertime, is not our strength. I mean, that is not the strongest part of our club. It's the offensive portion and our pitching. Starting and bullpen, I think, have a chance to be strong. But when you look at our club compared to last year, really, a lot of people think that Fielder has developed at first base to be very comparable to Miguel when he's playing first base. So there's only one defensive change, and that's at third base. Well, Rayburn at second, he's not a Gold Glove second baseman. But he did all right, and his plus is his offense. I mean, Peralta was very solid, and some people thought he should have won a Gold Glove, but he doesn't have the range of some other guys, nice sure hands and accurate arm. But he did a solid job for us. We're very strong defensively, really at two positions, catching and center field. Those are our strengths from a defensive perspective, which is a good place to start, because up the middle, the traditional old way of building your ball club was strong up the middle defensively and power at the corners. Well, we've gotten away from that in recent years, and part of the reason we've gotten away from it is because there's not enough power in the game. That's really what ends up happening. But when you think about it, Peralta's solid. We can play a very good defensive club up the middle if you play Santiago at second base. So you really do have the capabilities of doing that. Now, I also point out there's one change at third base. Miguel versus Brandon overall. Okay, Brandon is a better defensive player, no question. I think Miguel's a better offensive player. And I don't say that, you know, I mean, I don't mean, and I gotta be careful, I don't mean to say it flippantly. I mean, it's just one of those things. He's a tremendous offensive player. There are going to be a couple balls that go by Cabrera that would not go by Inge, by all means. And people will say, I can't believe I didn't catch that ball. But they'll forget that he had a 3-run homer in the second that put us ahead by 3 runs. So you give and you take. Now, the other thing with our club, and I had a breakfast meeting this morning and talk, if we choose, we can play a very good defensive club. Because first base, let's just say we're average over there, whoever's there. And I don't know if Danny Ward's going to make our club or how it's going to fit him, but if Ward does make our club, he could play second, Santiago could play short, Inge could play third, Kelly or Dirks could play left, Jackson in center, and then you've got Avila behind the plate. That's a very good defensive club. But I don't think we win as many games as our offensive club wins. But we have the flexibility to play those guys. And I think that's where Jim is such a good manager. He plays matchups. He loves to do that. He spends a lot of time focusing on it. And before you put Moneyball, and we'll probably get a question about Moneyball today because it's been a very important, very pertinent topic. But you can be assured when, and I'll just pick out a club. Let's say there's Cleveland Indians and Rick Porcello's pitching. And unless something unusual where Rayburn hits some pitcher extremely well, and there's 7 left-handed hitters in that lineup, he's going to play Santiago at second base most of the time. That's just what he does. And people won't notice it very much, and he won't talk necessarily much about it, but that gives us the best chance to play to win that particular game. And so that's why I think for us, we do have the capabilities to mix and match from a defensive perspective, but our club is meant to thump. I mean, we're meant to hit. That's how we're going to win or lose. And there'll be times when a Clayton Kershaw pitches against you, and he's on. I don't care who you are hitting-wise. He can shut you down. It's just like Justin Verlander. You can put the 27 Yankees against him. When he's on, you're going to have a tough time scoring. But the reality is that's how we're built to play ball. And there will be some times that we make a defensive miscue that you'll kind of say, well, it comes with the territory. But that's where Jim is so good. He'll say, well, Dave, hey, you got to be willing to take that. Now, I'll finish off by saying we think Miguel will be adequate at third base, I guess, from a defensive perspective. I don't mean to say he's going to be a Gold Glover. And I don't think what we're hoping is, and we believe, he's got good hands, he's got a strong arm, he wants to play there, and he'll work very hard at it. So he will be okay at third base.
quick follow-up, and then we'll open it up to some questions from the audience. Because this option is available, and they do hear about it, do you think there are some players, and maybe we can talk about Fielder and Cabrera specifically, who are better suited, who are better at the plate when they play in the field? In other words, they're either because of their age or because of their makeup, they're just not suited or aren't going to be as good as DH?
Yes, I do think there are some people like that. And you do have to pick and choose. Usually when their players are younger, they want to play. They want to be out there. They want their juices flowing. They don't mind DHing for a game or two to catch them, give them a break. But all in all, most of them fall into that category. The older they get, and I don't want to say in general, because there are some, and I don't know Billy Butler at all, for example, but he seems to have handled the DH role well. When I say I don't know from a personal perspective, he's handled the DH well as a younger player, and still is a threat and can swing the bat. He rarely plays first base at this time, so it can be done. But I do think that a lot of players, particularly when they're younger, like playing in the field more than they do DH.
Let's open up to a few questions from the audience. Just raise your hand, and I think, no microphone? My microphone? Raise your hand, and I'll bring my microphone around.